365 cut. These are the meaningless ramblings of a Scottish we-done whore and a pissy ex-video store clerk. Their ongoing mission is to set right the movie wrongs. They're gonna need a bigger podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the 365 Flicks podcast. Welcome back to a new quarantine track, as I have been affectionately calling them, although I try not to because it sounds a bit wanky. Yes, I'm back. I'm by myself. Chris is still not in the booth. Chris, where are you? I miss you. I don't really miss you. I'm doing well with these interviews by myself, so there you go. But I am back with another indie talk. Tonight is a really cool one because on Monday, July the 13th, Monday just passed, a movie came out called, as movies do, came out called I Am Vengeance Retaliation, or I Am Vengeance Retaliation. You don't have to slip the colon in there if you don't want to. I don't know. You can though. This movie starred Bad News Barrett, Stu Bennet from the WWE. If you've listened to the podcast before, you will realise that I am a bit, or both Chris and I are WWE fans. So Stu Bennet moving from wrestling into movies is something that I'm always going to check out. I've seen a few of the movies he's been in, and I could not wait to see this one. This time he is battling it out with Vinnie Jones, has come on board as well, and some guys from previous episodes of the 365 Flicks podcast. That's right, Phoebe Robinson-Galvin is in this movie. Bentley Kalu is in this movie. We love those guys, so it was obvious. Jean-Paul Lee, who we spoke about many times, he was in the movie Night Shoot. As we love Jean-Paul, he will absolutely be coming on this show, probably when Tom is getting ready to put 400 Bullets out, because apparently that's coming on really well. And by the way, Tom, San Diego Comic-Con, what's that all about? He's going over there July 25th to promote G-Log, which is bloody awesome. Well done, Tom. Yeah. But this episode is about Ross Boyask, director extraordinaire and writer of many, many action genre films, features and shorts. Movies like 10 Dead Men, Left for Dead, Vengeance, and I Am Vengeance 2. He's also worked with Scott Adkins, who, again, big fan Scott Adkins. He made a short with that man, Pure Vengeance. Guy's awesome. He has his own evolutionary films. He's the creative director of this company. They pick up low-budget, sort of independent genre movies, horror, little bit of coming of age with the soundtrack to 16, which I love, and, of course, action genre. So they put them out as well, which is cool. It's awesome. It's kind of like paying it forward. But I wanted to get Ross on to talk about I Am Vengeance 2 because it's a great little flick. I really enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed this movie. Stu Bennet is so cool. He's an action star, absolutely in the making. He's on his way. So we'll get into that in a minute because it's a cool little interview. It goes on just over an hour. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We just kept talking and talking. So as I tend to do because I can't stop gabbing. But first of all, I am Kevin, the pissy ex-video store clerk. You know me well. You've heard my voice, my dulcet tones. And this is the 365 Flicks podcast. And you can find us anywhere on a podcatching app. You will find us. So Libsyn, iTunes, Stitcher, not SoundCloud, Spotify. Just type in 365 Flicks podcast. You'll find us. You can listen to our big bad some bitch episodes, which are usually like 2.5 to 3 hours long because Chris and I just get together and shoot the shit. And you can also listen to these episodes, which are the indie talks where we speak to actors, directors, producers, all sorts of people within the industry, stunt guys, coordinators. Jude Poyer, what a guy. I have got a super interesting episode coming up for you as well. You're going to love this. I'll give you a hint. Actually, no, I won't. Sorry, no, you're not getting one. But yeah, we're in all those places. We're also on all the social medias, the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter. Just check out at 365flixpod, you will find us. We also have the website, which is www.365flixpod.com, which is where I put all the reviews, all the episodes. Doing really well right now. People are really intrigued by some of the things I'm reviewing, which is cool. The review for Arthur and Merlin, which was Giles Alderson's, the last episode that we did, that is going gangbusters, so hopefully people are checking that movie out. You are welcome, Giles. So we're in all those amazing social networks. We also have some wonderful homes, networks that look after us. We are on the Wicked Radio, the Tangent Bound, and the Danger Entertainment Network, and nerdly.co.uk. Phil Wheat, the man, the myth, the legend. We absolutely love Phil. He looks after us, and that is our British home. But yes, we are going to go into this episode, this interview with Ross Boyask. I absolutely loved speaking to him. You can tell just by chatting to this guy, he loves what he's doing. He loves the movies he's making, and he doesn't want to stop. He's just got such an affection for the 70s, 80s, 90s action genre fare, and he's paying sort of homage to those movies while you know, paving his way into the annals of history. I genuinely think that this movie is very, very different to a lot of the things that are out there right now, and we've got so many good British actors in here, and we get to talk about them all. So again, Ross, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'll be back on the other side of the interview to let you know what's coming up, but for now, interview in progress. Ross Boyask. Please do check out I Am Vengeance 2. You can find it on many different streaming apps. He names them towards the end of the episode. I'm always crap at that kind of thing. So yeah, check out the movie, give it a review, shoot them a like, a holler, slide into their DMs on the old Twitter if you can, and let them know how much you love this movie. Interview in progress.
That's John Gold.
Wonder how many people he's killed this week.
5 so far.
I'm putting a team together, and I want you to lead it.
Our target?
Sean Teague. His intel and contacts alone are enough to bring down the baddest of the bad. I know what he did to you and your team, but we need Teague breathing.
You want me to bring Teague in, alive? Steady! Teague.
As I live and breathe, John Gold.
You're coming with me.
Yeah, of course I am. Lads!
You're a traitor. You're a murderer.
I'm going nowhere with you.
Say that in my voice.
You're the John Gold.
Yep.
Why don't you just come show us how tough you really are?
Right then. You kill those guys. I'm gonna go after Teague.
Just like old times. I can't get rid of you.
I'm gonna tear you limb from limb.
Come on!
I have the pleasure of sitting down with indie action genre filmmaker Ross Boyask. Ross burst onto the scene back in '95, and he has delivered some cult favourites such as 10 Dead Men and Left for Dead, and the I Am Vengeance 1 and 2, which we're going to be talking about a little bit tonight. One of your shorts as well, Pure Vengeance, starring Scott Adkins, which I remember seeing a little while back. Absolutely brilliant. It was praised quite well. I believe Jonathan Ross chose it, and I think that's how I saw it. It was Stop Kung Fu.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I should start speaking.
Sorry.
Sorry. No, it blew my mind when Jonathan Ross took it on.
That's awesome, and I mean, I'm a big Scott Adkins fan as well, as I'm assuming you will be as well, and so that was cool, and seeing that again picked was amazing. Ross is also the creative director of Evolutionary Films, a company that produces, promotes, and sells quality independent projects, one of which we recently spoke to the directors of, Soundtrack to 16. So that was pretty cool.
Love that film. The Shakespeare sisters are amazing.
It was a fantastic film, and it was one of those films that I found during the lockdown because Dom Lenoir got in touch and said, would you fancy giving this a watch? And you know what? Given the world's current situation, exactly what I needed.
Everyone doesn't know. I mean, obviously you spoke about it. It's a delightful coming-of-age film.
Oh yeah.
It's not even up what you would call my street because I, as creative director, I'm sort of in charge of acquisitions.
Yeah.
And I know the producer Ben Jakes, who subsequently went on to produce a lot of movies. And we were having a chat, and he put us in touch and everything. And I just thought it was just a sweet, genuine, heartfelt movie.
Yeah.
But it never feels. Some of those sorts of movies can feel a bit artificial.
Yeah, a bit schmaltzy.
But I feel like it comes from the heart. The music is excellent, of course, and the kids are great in it. And it just feels kind of in a good way. It feels painful at times, like in terms of the emotions that they're going through. And I just love that. And it's not the typical film that Evolutionary Films does, although we do have some smaller dramas and documentaries as well as genre. But I fell in love with the film.
I did kind of notice that. I was kind of going through like the list of some of the films that you had on the website, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I remember seeing that around. I remember seeing that. Hang on, Soundtrack to 16. I was like, that's not anything like these other movies. But I suppose you have to every once in a while, and it's awesome. It's, like you say, it's a great movie, and when I first saw it, it was an easy sell for me. So this week, Ross released his new movie, Vengeance Retaliation. It came out on July the 13th, which was Monday, which is why we kind of wanted to get you on and have a chat about it, because I saw the movie, and I loved that. Stu Bennet is in it. I'm a huge WWE fan. You know, Bad News Barrett, King Barrett. There's no way I'm not watching these movies. So there you go. Bring on.
He's amazing to work with. So.
Oh, I bet. A proper man on a mission style type tale, if you like. And today we're going to dive into that. And so, how are you tonight, Ross? We've had a couple of words, but how are you tonight?
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's I'm feeling pretty good. It's great that the movie's out here finally, because it feels like a bit of a wait. But obviously we were working with Saban and Lionsgate in North America to get that release done, and that's gone well. I've been overwhelmed by the response so far in the UK in terms of the critics. For example, in the US we had Variety, which blew my mind. Reviewed the movie. And then over here we've had lots of great reviews from very supportive people, which has been wonderful, very constructive. But also we had the Guardian review the movie,
nice.
Which was not what you would normally expect for this kind of film. And they were very positive, but the star rating was low, kind of understandably. But the actual review was super positive, and it really surprised me. Like, I was really kind of a bit taken aback. I don't read many reviews, to be honest, because I think just get on with doing it and enjoy doing it. I mean, I'm not against the reviews. I'm just saying I don't tend to kind of get wrapped up in that part of it.
Yeah, of course.
But it really surprised me how positive the Guardian was. So. Yeah, delightful. And so, yes, in many ways, we're still very busy on the PR and the promoting and the marketing and everything. So, yeah, it's a bit of a crazy time.
It must be pretty cool when that happens, because you would have saw the review come up, and the first thing you probably would have saw was like the 2 or the 3 star, whatever the star was, and then you're sitting there thinking, oh no, this isn't going to be an easy read. And then you start getting positives, and it's like, well, I can take the low stars, but everything they're saying is brilliant.
It's funny that you say that, because yes, the first thing you see is the star rating, and for the record, they gave it 2. Kind of understandably. I mean, look, I know what the film is, so I'm not delusional. I think it's an enjoyable roller coaster action movie with some humour and so forth, and I'm really proud of it and the work that everyone put in, of course. But I understand what the Guardian newspaper is. Yeah. So I understand what their attitude to the film is likely to be. Yeah. But what was fascinating was, when it was like on social media, plenty of people commented on it and sort of said, this is a 3-star review that is rated 2 stars for what it's worth. Like, plenty of people have said, I mean, but the reviewer made a few absolutely fair point, constructive criticisms as well. And that's totally acceptable. I don't want people just saying everything's amazing. You need to keep some sort of foot on reality, right? Oh, God, yeah. But we want people to enjoy the movie, of course. But the amount of kind things that were said was just genuinely blew me away. I was so pleased
That's
for
awesome.
the people who were mentioned and everything, you know. So I was really pleased.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that. I like that. So we're going to get to Vengeance. I keep calling it Vengeance. I Am Vengeance 2, Retaliation in a short little bit. But first of all, I want to, when I've been doing these episodes, especially right now, the last few that we've done over the last couple of months, we're in some very, very unprecedented times. Obviously, the whole lockdown, the COVID, and everything like that. And I don't want to get too depressing or anything, but how has this whole situation sort of affected sort of your work, your career? I know you kind of released this just as things were kicking off, but how has it affected it?
I mean, the main thing for our company, Evolutionary Films, I'm a partner in that company with John Adams and Brian Shorthouse, who also produced the movie. And to be honest with you, our sales activity, if you like, and our marketing and distribution activity hasn't changed a lot. I mean, we've made sales, which has been brilliant. We've had some films come out. Now, obviously, the quarantine has affected what we might do. Like, obviously, we would have loved to have done, just for example, with I Am Vengeance Retaliation, we'd have loved to have done a big screening, a premiere, and all of that stuff. Of course. I mean, the first movie was my first ever film as a director, but in the States, Saban and Lionsgate made it theatrical briefly across 10 states, which blew my mind. So I'm aware that their original plan was something similar because it's a slightly bigger movie, Vinnie Jones is in it, and so forth. So it is somewhat disappointing that that situation has happened. You know, I mean, like, but you kind of have to look past that. You have to. The film is out. It's with some great companies. We're distributing it in the UK. We work so hard to get our titles out there. And of course, Saban and Lionsgate in the US. When I see the Lionsgate logo before my movie, it's it's kind of mind blowing. Not to sound, it's not a humble brag. It's like they have released so many movies that I love genre wise. That to see my film, or did I say our film, out there with those people with the same films, my brain goes, what? How is that happening? So, with regard to the lockdown, as much as we would like to have done some more social, more genuine meeting people, social events, lovely to get the cast and crew back together, all of that stuff. As much as I miss that, and it's a shame we're having to do that, the fact that obviously people are at home, they are looking for things to watch.
Exactly.
Hopefully they want some escapism, because the movie is not set in anything that you would call reality. It's a heightened world of action movies, right? It's intentional nods to 80s and 90s action movies. We're not, as much as we set up a world and kind of the rules of the world, say action wise, if you like, we're not looking at grounded, gritty, tactical movies. I really don't like that word tactical anymore when it comes to movies. I really don't. A friend of mine posted on Facebook recently about that word, and you kind of go, I don't really want every action scene to look the same, if you know what I mean. I want things to look different. So, each to their own. So the fact that people are, dare I say, at home and looking for something to watch, if they are looking for something fun that really is just enjoy this roller coaster of action, it's kind of funny. I hope it's got some charm and wit in it, which we try to do. It's 82 minutes, so hopefully you won't get bored. And so many good people in it, so much fun, so much action. Hopefully it does its job. Hopefully it satisfies those people who watch it. Not everyone's going to love every movie. That's fine. But in these times when people are hopefully looking for some enjoyment, rather than being depressed, I'd like to think that it does the job of doing that.
I think there's been a few movies that have come out over the last couple of months. The likes of this one and Debt Collectors came out, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Soundtrack to 16. That I maybe if I had been at work and if I had been like as busy as I have been over the last year or so, like I maybe wouldn't have found. So I've actually, in a selfish way, I've really quite enjoyed the lockdown because I've found some absolutely blinding movies. And you're right, you don't want to sit down and watch another Outbreak movie or another serious movie or another depressing movie right now. You want escapism, and that's exactly what this film is. It's a real good bit of escapism.
Oh, thank you.
So it's come out at a perfect time. Like you say, everybody's at home, so what else are they going to do?
It's good to hear. Thank you. I mean, hopefully so. And let's see how we do. I mean, obviously it's very early days in terms of the UK release. But in America, we're still Stu Bennet and myself are still doing certain press for the States, which is crazy. I mean, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? They still want us to do more podcasts and interviews and stuff? And again, I'm not trying. It kind of comes out as a little bit, I don't know. I don't like that word humble brag, but you know what I mean? Like, we're still doing it. Oh, woe is me. Like, it's amazing. And hopefully that's some indication that there's a good response to the film.
I think there has been. I've seen a lot of. I've seen a few things going around and some sort of cheeky little reviews kind of floating around, and for the most part, it's very positive, and there's a reason why. It's a great little flick. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and blow your trumpet because you just said before you didn't want me to, but
no, it's not my style.
I genuinely enjoyed the flick, and I think it was also a little bit of a case of, Stu Bennet's in there, WWE fan. Vinnie Jones in there, love a bit of Vinnie Jones. I mean, who doesn't? And then you throw in there was Phoebe Robinson-Galvin, there was Bentley Kalu, there's Jean-Paul Lee. I've had two of them on the show before. I love all three of those guys. I've had Phoebe on before. I've had Bentley on twice, I think. I just love those guys. So it was sort of like, so he's taken these three guys, these two guys that I absolutely just adore, and we're gonna get an all out, man on a mission, let's kill everyone kind of thing.
That was the actual pitch.
So this is your first time on the show, and with the movie coming out, I definitely wanted to get you on and sort of review it. Well, not review, I'll not say review, but chat about it a little bit. But before we do that, I would like to know sort of where you came from and sort of how you got into the industry and why the sort of action genre.
Okay, I'll try and keep it potted. When I was 2 years old,
nice.
I'm 45 now. Just as we get, I've had a very long and interesting life. Let me tell you about it. So when I was two, all I wanted to do was draw and, to a degree, write Marvel comics and DC comics. Nice. I didn't even know that there were different companies, really. I was 2 or 3, right? So but I learned how to read and kind of write and speak from comic books.
Yeah.
I knew the word discombobulated because Reed Richards said it in Fantastic Four when I was like 3, and my parents were like, what are you saying? So anyway, that was my life. I drew through every lesson. I was drawing in the margins of my my exercise books, and Thor and Daredevil and Superman and whatever. And I read everything I could. And I liked movies. Yeah, and Superman the movie is one of my favourite movies to this day. But overall, comics. Still am comics. And then I was 9 years later, when I was 11, I saw 3 movies in one day that literally changed my life. And when you speak to filmmakers, I mean, you're going to get a plethora of answers, but you tend to get things like, what were the films that made you want to make films? And they'll say The Godfather, or Goodfellas, or Star Wars, or Jaws, or Indiana Jones, or whatever, like Double Indemnity. I mean, that's an amazing movie. Or Citizen Kane, or whatever. People say these movies, right? For me, the 3... I'm laughing because I know what's coming. There's 3 movies. Revenge of the Ninja,
nice.
Commando, and American Ninja. in one go. That triple bill. And it's kind of obvious when you look back. Ninjas are like superheroes. They're wearing costumes, very simple stories of good and evil. The fighting is still, in my opinion, the fights in those movies are still ace, quite frankly. Simple stories of good versus evil. Commando, Arnie is a cartoon. I mean, the first thing we see him do is carrying a tree, not a log, a tree over his shoulder, and then he feeds a deer. And then he gets ice cream on his face. I'm watching Commando in my head right now. I've seen it over 150 times. So I will, whenever the Prince Charles shows it in London, I watch it. So those 3 movies, I watched those 3 films with my friends, and I went, what is that? Like, how do I do that? And that led to me doing, learning martial arts and watching every movie. And eventually one of my friends' fathers had a camcorder, and then we all started beating each other up on my back garden.
Great.
And then we started filming that because, we're trying to figure it out. We would watch films. I don't know if anyone else has done this. Obviously, this was in the days of VHS. We would watch fight scenes frame by frame. We would literally So Jackie Chan, it's like we didn't know what close-up. It's a shot of his head. We didn't know what a close-up was. It's a shot of his head. And as he throws a punch, so as he halfway throws a punch, it goes to this angle. It's like a wide kind of. Do you know what I mean? We literally were like, what are they doing? and then we copied it initially, right? I and my friends, we all had the usual. We've probably all still got bruises and scars to this day. And then that kind of progressed into, I want to make film. I know this is good. The short version of this is I went to sixth form and did media studies. Met my first producer, Phil Hobden, who I do a podcast with at the moment.
Cool.
He produced my first two movies, Left 4 Dead and 10 Dead Men. And we did loads of shorts together and all sorts of stuff. And so, from there it kind of progressed, university, etc. Made shorts there. Working. And then after university, at a certain point, we started to make a short with our long-term friend Glenn Salvage, who's based in Brighton. He was in my first ever short, Gauntlet. And he's done plenty of stuff, worked with Howard Ford. Great, lovely guy to be around. Great guy to work. And we started making this short, and the short just kept going. Essentially, we just kept making the short. And we kind of got to the point where we were like, this short's about an hour long.
Nice.
So what are we going to do? And then we kind of completely stopped, and kind of planned out what we might do as a feature, and that's kind of how Left 4 Dead became Left 4 Dead, if that makes sense.
Well,
we finished it, took its can, cut half of it. It was an hour and 50 minutes. We were going to cut more out of it, but a sales agency we took it to just wanted it, and they were like, in fact, there's a funny story behind this. We went to a few sales agencies with the film, left it, went away, did can. And we went back to this one sales agency, Worldwide Film Entertainment. And it was run by Barbara Mudge, who was amazing. And we said, they said, we want the movie. And we were like, bear in mind, we've never done this before. Okay, cool. We kind of want to cut like 25 minutes, way too long. This was our first, version of it. And she said, well, we've already potentially made deals in 7 or 8 countries, so could you just let us do that? And we were like, okay. so the movie is way too long for what it should be, but she sold it in a bunch of territories. And that's kind of a long-winded way of the short version of the story.
That's awesome. That's how you want to get in, and that's how you want to do it. And if people just take to it straight away, even better.
again, we were kind of like, okay, so they've already sort of done. Guess we've just sold our first film. Then.
Not bad when you don't even know if you have.
Right? Yes, very true.
So when you did come in and you had your first movie, you said you worked with a couple of guys there on getting this one put out. Was there anyone who was sort of instrumental in sort of you learning from, or kind of taking you under their wing, or was it just, we're going to go out and we're going to graft and get it done?
On the first movie, Left 4 Dead, look, everyone was very helpful. We worked with a great stunt guy. Not everyone could work with us all the time. We were shooting all weekends and evenings and stuff. We had a great stunt guy called Shane Steen, who's a South African guy, amazing, with friends to this day. He was recommended to us by Gary Daniels, funny enough, back in the day, because he did some work with Gary on some new Image films. And he came in and was a real, we were working with great fighters and so forth, but he had such an extensive stunts background.
Yeah.
That the scenes that he got involved with, I like it all really, but there was definitely something to the material that he worked on with us that had just an extra step. It's hard to define now, certainly back in the day, given how many years ago it was, but there was something about the way he worked, and he's such a good-natured guy. And again, friends to this day, he's worked on so many big movies and productions. Cool. So he was kind of like, I think everyone was instrumental. Anyone who would turn up and work on a film for basically nothing was instrumental. We worked with a great team of fight guys. We had, of all people, we had Joey Anster. I don't know if you know Joey. He ended up working on, he's done lots of things. He's just been in the Old Guard. He was in The Bourne Ultimatum as well. We had that great fight with Matt Damon as Desh.
Awesome.
And plenty of other films and TV shows. And he's in one of our fight scenes in the first movie, which is lovely. Lovely guy. Again, we didn't know each other very well at that point, but lovely guy to work with. And in fact, a number of people in Left 4 Dead have gone on one way or another to do, whether it's stunts or action, fighting. There's a guy called Ashley Beck who was the fight coordinator on The Warrior Nun.
Oh, nice.
And he's in a couple of the fight scenes. So, it's kind of fun to kind of look back and see, wow, these guys all went on to do stuff. And I'm not saying weird, but I'm not getting into that territory. It was really cool to work with them all.
Yeah,
John
definitely.
Fu, who ended up being the Jackie Chan role in the Rush Hour TV show, is in one of the fights. He's Left 4 Dead. It's pretty, when you go back, it's kind of amazing. So, that was a hell of a... In many ways, Left 4 Dead was our training ground, let alone all the shorts we've done. It was pretty much our training ground to just go, holy crap, we've somehow made a film.
I love that.
We've accidentally made a feature.
And there's one guy I do want to quickly touch on. We had him on the show a little while ago, and I noticed you worked with him, Jude Poyer, working with you on 10 Dead Men.
Yes.
You want to talk about people with just an amazing career, basically. Talking to that guy was something else. How did you come to working with him on 10 Dead Men, and what was you like to work with?
Great. Jude, again, super long-term friend. I first met Jude. He can probably tell a better story because he probably has a better memory than me. He's ageless, by the way. He hasn't aged a day since I met him. I met him. I think I was 16. I was or late teens, up in London at the Scala Cinema that used to do the Kung Fu Triple Bills.
Very nice.
We're talking way back in the day, like way back. It was pretty much my first time in London by myself. And he was literally just standing in the queue and turned around. I think he kind of asked me the time or something. We just started talking, and literally we became friends from there.
That's awesome.
And there was a point where he kind of he went off to Hong Kong, of course, and got 9-10 years of incredible experience. I mean, what an amazing time to be in Hong Kong. And I was off doing what I was doing, and then the timing worked out. He'd probably again tell this better than I, but I think the timing just worked out. But when he came back, I don't think he'd been back that long in the UK before we started making 10 Dead Men. I think the timing just worked out. And not just his own creativity and storytelling and ability and experience, the people that he brought on with him, like some of the action guys he brought on with him, were just second to none.
Yeah.
They were second to none. And all kind of up for the opportunities of like doing the gags, because, we're not a big movie. You can kind of do what you want with us as long as, you're... I kind of learned on 10 Dead Men that if a stunt guy or a fight guy says, it's all good, I don't have to keep saying, are you sure you want to do that? Do you know what I mean? I learned, do not just stop saying that, because it's just worry, right? A professional person knows what they're doing and they will do the stuff.
Yeah.
We had like a fight, like Jude did a fire burn coordinated by the great Peter Pedrero, which was incredible. We had Roy Taylor, who's a fantastic stunt guy, do a high fall for us. Russell McClad. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many good action guys in the movie. The fights are still tight, and again, that was kind of an exercise in we did Left 4 Dead. Now, how do we sort of improve upon that? It's a much tighter movie than the second movie, and so forth and so on. It's not perfect by any means, but it did very well for an independent action movie, UK action movie. And we had the tremendous Doug Bradley come in as the narrator, and the storyteller, in fact, and he was a wonder to work with. So no, Jude absolutely instrumental in and Phil as the producer, of course, getting everyone together and everything. Jude was instrumental in terms of the quality of the action being a step up. And I think Left 4 Dead, a lot of the action is still a lot of fun and holds up really well. But it definitely could have done like the movie itself with pruning.
Yeah.
And 10 Dead Men, we were more careful about the product that we presented, if that makes sense.
That's brilliant. So you're clearly, sitting here talking to you, you're clearly a massive fan of the genre itself. For the 80s, the 90s, some of the noughties and everything. We've had some cracking things. But what is it about sort of this action genre, the sort of the martial arts genre, that you think it's kind of a bit ageless, really? Like we can't seem to get enough of it.
I agree. I mean, look, action, in terms, because Evolutionary Films, we're a sales agent and a distributor as well as a production company. And one thing we do know is that action is evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
Horror can be kind of cyclical. There's always sort of a market for horror of some sort, but it tends to be cyclical. Zombies come back every few years. Supernatural, like J-horror type stuff comes back every few years. Slasher, it all kind of like, some of it, if you make a good horror slash genre movie, you'll probably get it away if it's a good enough. If the film knows what it is, one of the better way of saying it. Like one of my favourite relatively low budget genre films of recent years was You're Next. I love You're Next. I've watched it probably 7 or 8 times by now, and it's just something that works about not just the kills, but like there's a lot of it's all about a very dysfunctional family when you think about it. There's a lot of shit going on. And I love the way that film runs, and I'm desperate for it to follow up. The cliffhanger of the ending is terrific. So, but when you look at that film, if you've got savvy, you can make a film like You're Next.
Right.
You can, if you've got the right people around you. It doesn't have to be terribly expensive. And I'm not trivializing the work. I'm just saying that a filmmaker that wants to kind of deliver a commercial genre film could deliver a You're Next of some sort. So I think I'm just using that as an example. But action itself, like if you like pure action, is very much considered evergreen. There seems to be a hunger for it from the audience, which is great. And the buyers seem to recognize that. So it's probably just a lucky coincidence that I delight in making those kind of movies. I do want to kind of make the jump a little bit into slightly more horror realms, like survival horror, like physical horror.
Nice.
And in fact, I directed a short film in January, which is my first horror. It's like My Little Pony, which is but for me, it's super different in terms of genre. It was initially intended to almost be action horror to a degree. And as we went through it, it became much, much less about the action and much, much more about like the setup of it all.
Nice.
I won't get into it now because there's no point, but perhaps nearer the time if you're interested.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so it's got a great cast, a really exciting cast. So, yes, anyway, but the point being is, as a director, you know, I like making any kind of movie. Like I've done short drama, I've done various different things. Action, I think, speaks to me. I think it's a really pure form of expression. A fight scene, I guess what I'm getting at is, for me, it's all about storytelling.
Yeah.
And fighting, to me, on screen, is as much part of the narrative as any dialogue scene or established shot, just any other type of scene. Yeah. A fight is between characters. It's a scene between characters, even if they're cannon fodder, you know, being thrown at the hero and getting taken out. In the end, who are they all? Like, what training have they had? Definitely. What kind of what style do they fight in? And then how do the lead characters like Stu, Phoebe, Sam Benjamin, and so Jean-Paul, how do they then react to those attacks, if you like? So, yeah, I think the thing that appeals to me most about action is you can tell a hell of a story through action. Show, don't tell, right, in terms of cinematic storytelling. So that's what's important. It's not just action for action's sake. It's not just punching and kicking and shooting, although there's a lot of that in I Am Vengeance Retaliation. I would like to think that when you look at how the action scenes are set up and the story that happens, that people understand that every fight propels the story forward, and every fight essentially comes from the characters, the way the characters interact, just like dialogue.
Yeah, definitely. When we had Jude on, he kind of said the same sort of thing about how the fight tells as much as the story tells of the story, and saying that that's why a lot of the Hong Kong action movies, when it comes to the fight sequence, the director sort of hands over to the stunt guys and the coordinators and everything, because it's now their turn to make the movie, and it's kind of, you're right, it's exactly what it is, because there's a certain scene in I Am Vengeance 2 as well. It's the Bentley fight with the two girls. And like I feel like you learn a hell of a lot about his character in that one fight without him really saying anything, or it's just like he seems a lot of fun. You kind of feel like he's there as he's going to do whatever he can for Vinnie Jones, but even more so, he's going to do whatever he can for himself. And you kind of learn that in that fight is by the way he goes on, and so you're right. You're completely right.
Thank you. And it's funny. I mean, Jude saying that is very true. I mean, like, we worked with Tim Mann. We had Tim Mann as a fight choreographer and Dan Stiles and Dominic Kinnaird as the stunt coordinators. And Dan and Dominic were amazing, like keeping everyone safe, communicating brilliantly with the crew and cast, and of course being very creative and collaborative in their own way in terms of storytelling. Tim, as a fight choreographer, was obviously dealing with all of these characters. So many characters in the movie. Yeah. We have like 19 fights,
which is mental.
Yeah. And it's an 82-minute movie, right? and all the fights, they are not long fights. I mean, some of them are kind of intercut, so it kind of makes them feel a bit longer. But overall, they're fairly compact. But it was absolutely about storytelling. Like any punch was like a line of dialogue, like an assault, right? So Tim absolutely understands as a storyteller that it all comes from character. The actors themselves also bring that Like, we talk about who the characters are, what their backgrounds are. So you kind of get that interaction between the cast bringing their their take on the character and how they are and how they interact. Tim's choreo, which, just so people understand, we didn't have a lot of prep time by any means, but what Tim did was he prevised not every fight, but most of the fights with his team, which means, again, for anyone who doesn't know, he essentially got his own team together, filmed them on whether it was a camera phone or a small camera or something, and edited together the fight scenes. Not all of them, but a considerable number of them. And of course, what that helps with is, obviously, we never have a lot of time, but it helps them communicate the sequence not only to the actors, but to, for example, Simon Rowling, our DOP. And it can be communicated to the team. And that sometimes includes filming out of sequence, because we're going to film in one direction first.
Yeah.
Sometimes that involves just filming, sort of out of order, but we know we get all the pieces. So when it comes down to it, having someone like Tim Mann on board, who's a veteran choreographer, again, he's worked with Scott Adkins so many times.
Unbelievable.
So having him on board really helps, not just in terms of choreography and giving us great moves, which are obviously part of it as well, but also in terms of like telling the story. He understands that it's about the story.
Awesome, man. I was going to ask about him as well, because I saw that and I was like, Jesus. There was a couple of things about this film as well, because I saw the first one and I did love the first one, and then the second one comes around, and then obviously, as you alluded to before, the lines getting Sabin at the beginning. I'm sitting there like, damn, this is like a next level step up. And then I noticed that choreography again. I'm a big Scott Adkins fan, so I see that you've got Tin Man working on there, and I'm like, holy shit. And then you get fight after fight, and you're like, yeah, definitely, just it's a next level step up for this film.
Thank you.
So let's get into that film. Let's get into I Am Vengeance Retaliation, which I recently saw. I absolutely loved. It's a great film. Vinnie Jones comes into the fray. Stu Bennet, who again, WWE fan, so you've already got a fan in the movie from me. So I'm really terrible at doing elevator pitches, and you kind of did one a little bit earlier, but why don't you give us a little rundown, without any spoilers, of what the film's about?
Okay, cool. So I Am Vengeance Retaliation is a sequel to I Am Vengeance, or just Vengeance. It's variously known in different territories. You don't need to have seen the first movie to enjoy it. I think, like, we were very clear. But if you want to, it's great. It's good. So the movie is basically about John Gold, played by Stu Bennet, who is a ex-Special Forces soldier gone rogue. He kind of went off the grid several years ago, and he's now kind of a soldier of fortune. Yeah. He's a badass killing machine, but with a bit of a heart of gold, which is something of a metaphor, but there you go. And in this movie, we start off seeing him sort of doing a pre-mission, if you like, avenging the death of the daughter of a friend. And he exits that location to be confronted with his former handler, Frost, played by Mark Griffin, who was also in the first movie, but is almost completely unrecognisable. He has a very distinct aesthetic change from the first film. But essentially, Frost offers Gold the opportunity to bring in the man who betrayed Gold's team some years ago, who they all believe to be dead, which is Sean Teague, played by Vinnie Jones. And Gold initially refuses the call. He's not going to do it. But then Frost tells Gold that if he brings Teague in alive, which Gold would not want to do given the circumstances, but if he brings him in alive, he gets to have his life back. He gets to be, all of his sort of sins against the government are wiped clean, and he gets to, be a free man. He reluctantly agrees, and then it all goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, and when you say it goes horribly wrong, it does go very horribly wrong. So we're going to get into it a little bit. But I would like to quickly ask, Stu Bennet, obviously, he came into the first movie, and he's in this movie again. How did you come to cast Bad News Barrett of the WWE in your movie?
So, okay, it's a great question. The way we met Stu Bennet was Evolution Films is based at Three Mills Studios in East London, which is one of the best studios in London, if I may say so myself. We have an office there. And Stu was there filming Eliminators for WWE, obviously starring Scott Adkins, directed by James Nunn, very talented director.
Nice.
Lots of people on the shoot that we know. Obviously, I know Scott. I've known him for a number of years, and we kind of got in touch. had a little chat and so forth. And obviously, I saw Stu. I didn't know him very well. I knew of him, and I'd seen Dead Man Down, for example, and so forth. So I was aware of him. And I sort of saw him in passing and everything, but did we get a chance to talk? We were trying to figure out, like with Scott, I was saying, is there any chance we could get introduced just to say hello? Blah, 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 and it just didn't work out for no reason. They're very busy. They're filming very quickly and everything. So one day I get a call from a stuntman friend who says, I'd like to bring, I think it was his cousin or something, to the studio to have a look around one evening. Is that all right? And I was like, I mean, it's a bunch of brick buildings, but okay, sure. You know, like when it's nothing there, it's just a bunch of warehouses. But of course, I'd be delighted to. Yeah, it'd be nice to see him again. He's a mate, etc. And he turns up, and not only does this stuntman friend turn up, but a very close friend of mine shows up, Jason Beeston, who was in my first feature, Left 4 Dead. He's done loads of movies and TV shows. Jolly nice fellow. And total surprise. Hey, how you doing? Cool. We're walking around for probably not even a few minutes when suddenly Stu comes like walking around the corner with a production assistant, really nice guy, because I've met him a couple of times before, you know, during the shoot. And the first thing that happens is my friend Jason leaps onto Stu, and I'm like, this could go wrong. But what it turned out was that Jason had very briefly doubled for Stu in Eliminators.
Oh, nice.
On a couple of gags. Not. I mean, obviously they're different proportions, but Jason's quite tall and everything. So, you know, wore the jacket and everything. And I think he doubled him for a couple of gags. Hey, how you doing, Stu? Blah, blah, blah. I'd love to introduce you to my mate, Ross. He's this really talented. I'm starting to blush. Yeah. like all of that stuff. Oh, hey, how you doing? And stuff. I was like, hey, how you doing? Funnily enough, I don't know if you've got time, but we've been thinking about you. We're based here. You know, Evolutionary Films is based here. We've been thinking about this project. It's like a vigilante movie, a revenge thriller. I think you'd be really cool for it. Would you, by any chance, be interested in reading the script? And he kind of went, sure. I was like, okay, great. I've actually got a copy in office. I'll go and get it. And it was like, okay, cool. And I turned around and sort of wandered off. And when I got around the corner, I pegged it, like completely out of breath, running up 3 flights of stairs to the office, where Diane was sitting in the office, having printed out, probably enough, a batch of scripts, just coincidentally. And I was like, Stu's downstairs. And she threw me a script. I was much, much more out of shape than I am now. I'm not even kidding. I burned it downstairs, pegged it to the corner again, settled down, and then slowly, I don't even know if Stu knows this, I wandered out fairly calmly, went, hey, how you doing? Here's the script, it'd be great to talk, see what you think. And so he was like, great. I was like wiping sweat off my forehead. Look, the long and short of that is he read it, we had a really nice chat. John and Diane obviously spoke with him as well as producers and everything. And it was done, and he was a pleasure to work with. And Jason, in the end, not just because of this, because he's very talented, but Jason obviously got a part in the movie as one of the bad guys, like one of the soldiers that Stu killed. So that was a lot of fun. And the timing of it was incredible, because what I didn't know was, until later, was that was Stu's last day. On the shoot, on Eliminators. Yeah. So if we had missed him, I mean, look, we could have always called his agent, and of course, that would have been fine. But we came within like a hair's breadth of not actually meeting. So I think I really believe it is actually about meeting someone and talking to them and face to face.
I was going to say that, because you can send an email to the agent or to the guy, and he's going to read the email, and that's fine. But you got a chance to meet him face to face. You got a chance to, as you say, out of breath, run and get a script and bring it back. And he, although he'll probably not let on, he probably knew you did that.
Look, I was sweating from my eyebrows, so he probably had an understanding, but it was still quite funny nonetheless. And look, I knew Jason was going to. I knew the guys would probably keep him talking and everything. Yeah, but don't keep the man hanging around. No. So it was quite entertaining, and we've become good buddies. I love talking with him. I love working with him. So it was pretty crazy.
And obviously he's like he's an athletic guy. Obviously, I mean, he had to be, because he would have been wrestling about 300 days a year when he was at the WWE and everything. Because that's a
rest. Like a lot of
being a fan of the WWE myself, I kind of know what those guys do. But were you at all I know you said he looked kind of the part for the character you wanted, but were you at all surprised by how good he was when he got on set, or was that just like...
Surprise wasn't quite the right word in that these guys, look, we've seen a lot of wrestlers transition, right?
Yeah.
Film-wise, I was going to say. Transition film-wise. But not quite the same thing. So there's that. They tend to have really great charisma. And also, I've worked with wrestlers before. One of my best friends, and I love working with, is Greg Burridge, who's also in the movie. He fights JP at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there are different types and everything, but I've worked with a number of wrestlers before on different productions, and I love working with them partly because they can take the hits, they take the choreo, usually got an amazing attitude and a humble, but can project. So I love working with wrestlers as like the action side of things, and also dramatically. I did a short with Greg at the end of last year with Brian Larkin called Dead End 3, which will be out later this year, all being well. And it's an espionage thriller. And Greg, who is a wrestler, who's been in a bunch of movies, he has a notable scene with Scott Adkins in Avengement.
Oh.
He's terrific in it. He's in the prison scenes.
Yeah, I know who you're on about now. Yeah,
right. He's great. He pretty much doesn't do any fighting in the short. It's purely dramatic. It's purely like dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
There's tension, but it's dialogue, and he's terrific. Like a lot of the wrestlers are good performers. It's just about there's a difference between performing to the back row and of course performing for the camera. Yes. That's a different. That's the thing. But he's terrific at that too. So when it comes to Stu, I was not surprised in that. First of all, he's done a few movies.
Yeah.
He's done a few bits and pieces. Secondly, his commitment to the role. We had a number of conversations before the film, before the shoot, and again, very little time to prepare. But he had his ideas. He was very specific about, even including certain parts of the choreo, like certain. There was kind of like a moment in the first movie where Gary Daniels spits blood at Stu, and originally it was going to be Stu spitting blood at Gary, and he was like, "That's a heel move. I'm not doing that." And I was like, "Well, that totally makes sense. He's absolutely right.
Yeah,
he's absolutely right." So for the character, he had very specific choices and decisions about. He was using the film partly to transition from heel into babyface. He's a big badass kicking machine babyface, but he's using it to become the Punisher, for example, or similar. So that was critical, and then obviously that also then led into the sequel with other decisions too. So I wasn't surprised per se. He gave me moments that I was surprised by, like any actor. The best actors, when you work with them, they give you things that you can't ask for as a director. Like, do you know what I mean? Like very small moments and intimate moments and stuff that you cannot ask for. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose you could just say any surprise was simply, oh, it's going to be this easy.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean? Because you're right. There's always a bit of anticipation as to how is this going to go. But I learned some time ago that you kind of have to throw that away. Like, most of those concerns should be dealt with at the casting stage.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I mean, it might help that in the first film, Gold was sort of a man of few words and kind of a modern cowboy, but he still had that. It wasn't no words. It was still... When people don't have a lot of dialogue, I think some people think that means they're not acting.
Oh, God, no.
But I think some people do. Some people think it's the number of words. It's nothing to do with that. It's here.
Yeah.
It's this. And then how you hold yourself and how you move, right? So Stu delivered all of that, in my opinion, in spades.
Brilliant.
Delighted. So, and in the second movie, it's interesting to see how much he's grown as an actor again, because he has a much wider range of what he has to, if you like, emote without getting too wanky. but he opens up more. He becomes a warmer character. He interacts with Vinnie about like their past. And it's an acrimonious relationship, of course, and there's all of that. And then his interactions with Shapiro and Lynch are kind of like warming him up a bit. There's humour there. So it was really important that all of those things come out, and Stu never missed a beat.
So on to the second movie, because you've just mentioned that obviously Vinnie Jones comes into this one. The two of them have phenomenal chemistry in the film. Like you kind of have that first scene in the back of the van when they're kind of having a bit back and forth with each other. And one of the things, and I feel a bit, I don't really know how to say this without sounding like a bit of an asshole. But for a few years now, we've seen Vinnie Jones in hundreds of movies now. I think he's done over 100 films. But for a little while, I don't want to say he's been phoning it in, but he's not really felt like he's as interested as he used to be. And that's what I loved about this film as well with Vinnie Jones, because he just seemed to be having a ton of fun, if you know what I mean. Like,
no, I really appreciate you saying that, actually. I mean, I'm a big fan. And again, I've never been a football guy, sorry. Although I was aware of him, of course, and the headlines and everything. I was more aware of like his first album than I was of his football career, right? For real.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I love Lock, Stock, and I love Snatch, and etc. Gone in 60 Seconds, and all of like even Juggernaut. I loved him as Juggernaut. I think it was a shame that kind of got a bit maligned in the end, and you can see why it happened. But I thought it was a shame because I thought he was hilariously entertaining as that character, and I've seen him in loads of it, like whatever you want to call them, low budget, mid budget, high budget, Escape Plan, for God's sake, like loads of movies, and TV shows. Like he was great in Elementary. I don't know if you saw him in that. I think he was fantastic in it. I think it was Deception last year. There was a TV show. I think it was Deception. There was a TV show about like a stage magician, but he was kind of the guy who does all his tricks, and he's like the tech guy. Vinnie Jones is the tech guy, right? Which doesn't sound. He's great in it. Yeah. Like he's so much fun in it, and he's got a lot of heart in it. And I think that people don't get. I mean, first of all, I don't think people get that Vinnie is funny.
Yeah.
I don't always necessarily. I won't always pretend to know that when he was always joking. Sometimes it took me a minute because he's got a great stone face, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he did enjoy it. I think we had a long chat before he came on board. Like, well, he'd already kind of signed on, but it was like before the shoot. We had a good 40-minute chat about his ideas on the character and costume and so forth. I knew he was going to play around with the dialogue, but I actually encourage that. I'm the writer-director, right?
Yeah.
I'm not precious about the script. I have to, when we're shooting, unless there's a specific line of dialogue that I'm like, this is critical.
Yeah,
like
this drive.
I'm not a pained artiste. It's more about what tells the story.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, before we shoot, we run the scene. People have already got their ideas. I feel like I'd say it this way. Normally I go, cool. If I've got an issue with it, I'll say it. It's just not me. I'm much more collaborative than that. In the end, I say yes or no anyway, right? Without being, making a point of it. In the end, I edit it out if I don't like it.
Exactly.
So, I'm just saying. So, not to sound, however that sounds, but for me, it's the actors have all done so much work. I don't see all the preparation that they do. I just don't. I'll talk to everyone I can before the shoot or while we're shooting, but I'm acutely aware that I see so little of it, like the work that they're doing, the preparation. So when actors come in and we're breaking it down, I respect those contributions. I want to see how they bounce off each other, and if I agree, great. If I agree, I'll say, listen, I think this or whatever, and that gets taken on board. Working with Vinnie was amazing because, like everybody else who came to the production, more so, he brought so much experience. Mm-hmm. He brought the experience of, like you say, like 100 movies and TV shows and everything else to the character. And he took it seriously. As much as he was enjoying it, like I think he had a blast in the end, he took it seriously. Like he and Stu had conversations. So working with him was a delight, actually. Like, it wasn't always easy. I won't pretend it was always easy. Time is always against you. I'm not talking about specifically Vinnie. I just mean time is against you. So... But he delivered to me. He delivers hard on screen. I agree. I think he looks like he's enjoying himself in the right way. Like, I like a villain who enjoys himself. I like movie villains, to be honest. I don't go for the 12 moustache, but I do like a villain who enjoys what they're doing. Sorry, I hope that makes sense. I don't know if I've gone in any wrong directions there.
No. Like I say, it's just I felt like while I was watching the film, I felt like I hadn't seen this Vinnie Jones for a while. So it was very nice to see, and it kind of made me feel like he's enjoying it. So
thank you.
And the two of them, Vinnie and Stu, both absolutely just knock out of the park when they're together. The banter back and forth, the banter with Vinnie and Jessica Jane Stafford as well. So some great little lines in there. Joe Egan getting some lines. Actually, nice to see Joe Egan getting some lines in a movie.
Yeah, you know what? I can tell you. I hope I'm not taking up too much of your time. I can tell you a fun story about Joe, who, first of all, is one of the warmest humans I've ever met. I was blown away by it, and there's kind of a point to that. So I met Joe. I think Joe and I had probably bumped into each other at a couple of things before this, like a screening or whatever. Definitely like 2 or 3 moments. I'm sure we've sort of scraped. Well, not shoulders because he's much taller than me, but you know what I mean. Like, So, so I went to location scout when we were location scouting. I location scouted a part of East London, and I checked of all the things. I checked in like when I got there. I just blah blah blah. And Scott Atkins messaged me saying, "Are you in blah blah blah?" I was like, "I am," and he went, "We're filming Avengement. Do you want to come and say hello?" And I was like, "I do," like, because it was the area. It was literally the location that I was scouting.
Amazing.
And so I saw it obviously on a Jesse's lovely. Met Dan Stiles properly. I don't think we might have again bumped into each other, but we met properly. That's nice. And a number of other people, and of course Big Joe. And the funny thing about that is that morning, I'm not kidding, a couple of hours beforehand, I was redrafting the script, just bits and pieces. And what I was trying to do was kind of layer the bad guys a little bit more, like just give them a little bit more. And Gunnar, the character, he was always going to be the big guy. He was the man mounted, all of that stuff. And I was like, what if he's the nicest guy you've ever met? Because he can fuck you up, right? And people who can fuck you up can be nice because it doesn't matter, right? Like they'll do it as part of their job, and they'll be like, "You're all right," you know. So I did that, including my favourite line of his at the end, which is right at the end, without being too spoilery. Essentially, Stu says to Joe, "You know, you're probably the politest mercenary I've ever encountered." Yeah. And Joe then goes, "That's very kind of you to say." So, and he delivers that perfectly. So anyway, the point is, I had literally rewritten that aspect 2 hours before I met Joe.
Cool.
Properly. And I met Joe, and Joe was like, the nicest person you've ever met. So, hello, Mr. Boy. I was like, my name's Ross. Please don't call me Mr. Boyask. like, and stuff. And he's like modest and pleasant and down to earth, funny as hell. Like, got a joke there, right? Like just there. Obviously superimposing and all of that stuff, but just a warm human. He actually called me the other day, funnily enough, just randomly, and he messages me occasionally with the funniest stuff, like the sweetest stuff. Yeah. And like I'm not joking. Hello, da 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 da, and I went, I wrote you this morning. It was really weird, and we then went on to hire him. He was literally cast. We didn't read anybody else for him at all. We were like, Joe, done.
That's cool.
And utter pleasure. And I'm glad you picked up on the lines because it's not many, it's not loads, but I think he absolutely nailed those lines. I really do. Like, just did it. Like, okay, a couple of times, move on.
Yeah, you do. You do very much get, as you said, you could be the nicest guy on the planet because you know you could kick someone's ass. You do.
Basically.
You get that from him, and I keep seeing him. I keep spotting him in different movies all around the place, and I kept thinking to myself, who is this guy and where's he come from and why is he in everybody's movies right now? And so I've reached out to a couple of people and I've asked them about him, and they're basically saying exactly what you've just said. So I'm glad you've said that, like about how much of a nice guy he is and an absolute joy to have on set. So when I sat down to watch I Am Vengeance, and he's got lines, and I was like, he's doing dialogue now. This is awesome.
See, now I'm wondering, am I breaking a mold here? Like, am I
Oh, you've created a monster.
the guy who gave Joe Egan lines. Like, oh no.
Hey, stick that in the box. So I want to briefly touch on the three guys that you brought into this movie that I knew from elsewhere, the likes of Phoebe and Bentley and Jean-Paul Lee, who I absolutely love. These are three badass characters, three total kick-ass actors. What was it like working with these guys, and of course the subsequent putting together 19 fights in one movie?
JP, I've known for a while, like on and off. I'm trying to remember who introduced us. Somebody did. It might have even been at Fighting Spirit Festival, actually, film festival. Entirely possible. And we became fast friends very quickly, actually. And also Law, I know Law well. He's lovely. I used to live near him for a while. It's quite funny. We used to get together. Just, again, super talented. JP, super talented. Yeah. Super, again, down to earth, modest, funny, like, charming, witty. And it was great to work with him. The fight he has with Greg Burridge at the end of the movie, to me, is one of the... I mean, I think most of the fights work really well, but I think there's a savagery in their fight that is just crazy. And there's something about the difference in their styles, particularly, that just seems to work. Greg's sort of brawling and wrestling, and JP's like fast moving and kicking combos and everything. And it's interesting how Tim and those guys together obviously made that work. You know, it's two styles that you wouldn't necessarily think complement each other. But I think it works great, and Greg's great. And there's a story, again, without being too spoilery about this, where Gold kills a bad guy, one of the bad guys kills one of the good guys, one of the good guys then gets revenge. It's kind of like a story there between what ends up being JP and Greg, and I think that culminates really well. So he's brilliant and lovely. Would work. I mean, I've worked with any of these guys again, obviously. Phoebe was a real find. I had seen her in JP's short film, and I'd seen her fighting Law in The Division, I believe it's called. Which was great fun. So I knew that when we cast Law as well, I knew that fight was secure, particularly in the hands of Tim and so forth. So that was great. And Phoebe was just wonderful. Phoebe and Katrina Durden both auditioned for both roles, and there was a handful of actresses who did that. And in the end, it came down to, I mean, the others were great, not taking anything away from anyone else. Everyone came in and did a great job. But there was something about Phoebe and Katrina when they like I say, they played both roles in two different scenes. Yeah. Like what could Jenny in one scene and Kate and Lynch in the other scene. What I loved about what they did, okay, partly it is that they had the physical skills, because they really had to have the physical skills. Oh, definitely. there was no getting around that. Well, and they both deliver that in spades. But they both made very specific choices in both characters, if that makes sense. It was their posture. It wasn't just their diet. There was something, they'd made some very distinct choices in both roles. And then it ended up being the way we cast it the way we cast it. It was, it came close. We weren't necessarily sure who was going to play which role. I think we ended up making the right decision.
Gotcha.
And I think Phoebe, in many ways, it's like the heart of the film. Certainly her relationship with Sam Benjamin and the way they work together is great. And like the humour of that. But I think in the end, she's the heart of the film. She's quite sincere and has a lot of integrity and so forth. And I think her dialogue with Katrina is great as well, like when Katrina's tied up and all of that stuff. So that was brilliant. I really hadn't met her before at all, I don't think, at all. But so good to meet her when she auditioned and so forth. And yes, I think she's brilliant in the film. And then Bentley, again, I don't think I'd met Bentley before the audition. I've definitely seen some of his work, for sure. Ultron and again, met plenty of independent films. Again, he's worked with Tom, hasn't he? And all that. And he is a character in himself. Like Bentley is, his voice alone is just gorgeous.
Right. So yes. I need to.
Are you going to ask about the end credits?
No. I need to ask you a question here. So,
okay.
So Bentley, when he walks into the room for the audition, and you see the man mountain that is Bentley, yes. were you expecting just the massive, gentle marshmallow that he is?
I didn't have any actual expectations per se, except I'd seen him, so I had an idea. I guess what I didn't have an idea of necessarily from the films was, again, dare I say, his warmth.
Yeah.
His actual warmth. Like,
he's phenomenal.
He's just a wonderful person to be around. Such good energy. Great at, from what I can see, just giving everybody else energy, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like people sort of feed off each other a bit on a set. And yeah, I know it's easy to say he's a character, but he really is. Also he gives a lot of thought to it. Like he would, not many. He would just, before certain scenes, he would just ask a couple of questions. Yeah. He would just ask you about this and ask you about that, and he would just go. And I would never have to go into it too much with him. Just a few moments, and he was just set. And I loved that. I love being asked. We don't always have a lot of time. But when people are sort of focused, when an actor or whatever is focused and saying, I just want to get some clarity on this, it makes you realise they are, again, you don't see all the work that everyone's putting in. But it's lovely seeing the dots connect, if you see what I'm saying. And it does have an effect, and I think, on what they give you. So, yeah, Bentley is tremendous. And also, dare I say, things like his gun handling is amazing. His physical experience, the way he moves on screen, there's energy there that's great. He moves. What I like is most of the people in the movie do move differently. And it's not and I don't mean to any disrespect, it's not 9 wrestlers or 9 BJJ guys or 9.
There's a lot of different techniques going on.
Yeah, exactly, and I love that. I love that there's that variety, and that it's a kind of easy mix, if that makes sense. Like, as in, none of it feels out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think he comes across really well in the movie as well. Like, he's very distinctive. He looks like an action figure.
It's as well. He's doing quite a lot of sort of what I've seen him do before in other movies, but at the same time, he seems to be doing something extremely different to what I've seen him do before. And I was just kind of sitting there, and I was like, "What Bentley are we getting here?" And it's just fantastic.
But again, to me, he's a character who does enjoy himself. Like, the guy enjoys doing what he does. He likes kind of swinging it around a little bit. I mean, in terms of his power or his authority over the guys. We never really made a point of it. At one point, he was kind of very misogynistic,
right?
Like, in fact, not. I don't like getting into that field. I mean, there is that little moment at the end where he's like, "Ladies, do you really think you did?" So there is that kind of arrogance there, but I didn't want it to be like a defining characteristic. I didn't want him to be a bad guy because he's a dick to women.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not. Yeah, that's not the point. It was more. Even though that comes across as a little misogynistic, of course, but it's more arrogance and kind of almost eventually hubris.
Yeah.
Rather than it being he's a piece of shit to women, you know, because it could have come out that way. It could have easily. I mean, he gives Katrina's character quite a beat down in like near the end of the second act, and I was a little bit concerned about not because like, the girls give as good as they get, right? They kick the shit out of the guys, which is brilliant. And out of each other sometimes. But there is always a concern. You don't want just a guy beating up a woman, right? Regardless of the skill. So there was always a little bit of a fine line to tread. But I think we nailed it. And I think that, again, when it comes to the final act, when Bentley has the showdown with Phoebe and Katrina, the last experience he's had of Katrina was he did nearly kill her. Like, he did nearly get her. So there would be that kind of that arrogance there. It's almost like come for some more. Yeah, you know what I mean? You really think you can take me? So hopefully that tracks.
Oh no, it definitely does. And you've mentioned it a couple of times there, because I'm going to be quite bold and make a bold statement here, and it's mostly because I haven't really seen her in anything else. But sure. Katrina Durden, for me, steals every scene she is in this movie. She's so brilliant. Where did you find this girl?
Oh, well, funnily enough, I mean, she's very much, she's a very close friend with Joey Anser. And we've actually met, I think, almost informally a couple of times, just at various places. Like, I think, did we meet at one of the Comic-Cons briefly? I think we did. Again, she's got a much better I feel really bad that I never remember.
I'm exactly the same.
Well, we definitely met informally a couple of times. Yeah. And already we're like social media friends and all of that stuff, which was great. And yeah, but that's kind of how it happened. I mean, really, I met her properly for the first time in the audition, like properly, because I guess there was like a purpose to that, rather than just hanging out and stuff. And I think she's tremendous. I mean, she put an incredible amount of work in. One of the reasons why we ended up casting her as Jen rather than Lynch, because she actually asked, and I said, look, it kind of could have gone either way.
Yeah.
It really could have, one way or another. But there was, when she was doing her audition for Quaid, for Jen, there was just this raw vulnerability that was underneath the tough.
Yes.
But I think really does come out in the movie. And she's got a lot of conflict going on. Like, Jen Quaid, in the end, even though she's kind of the vengeance person in the second movie, right? We kind of wanted to keep that theme in the film somehow. And she's got a path to go. She's, you've got Gold trying to kind of like dissuade her from this path and so forth. And the other thing, and again, it's not really my place to go into the details of it. I had no idea that Katrina has actually suffered very significant personal tragedy in her life.
Right.
Which relates a little bit to Quaid's story. And I had no idea. Like, I had absolutely no idea. And it's horrid. And when I found out, I mean, I was, I just kind of go, oh God, I hope you're okay. Inside, I was like, oh my God, no. Like, I felt terrible. Just on a personal level.
Yeah.
And she really does tap into it in the epilogue of the movie. There's a scene at the end with her and Vinnie, and I think she tapped very significantly into her.
That makes sense. You saying that? That's
super raw. She's super raw in that. She's super raw, and again, we had very little time to do it, so her accessing all of that. I remember just finishing when we finished Take. I was just like, "Are you all right?" Well, because normally you just kind of go, "Cool, do you want to do another one?" And yeah, I know. I think she is a scene stealer in a good way, but also a great collaborator.
Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't just I'm gonna steal.
No.
But she makes. I mean, look. A lot of her reviews have mentioned it. She makes a significant impact, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of her. I think, but also the stuff when she's fighting Phoebe, like the fights they did together, Phoebe and Katrina. Holy shit, like, they're wild. And again, this is Tim. This is them working their asses off.
It was one of those things where, like, most of the guys in the movie, like, I know sort of what to expect, and a lot of them were surprising me, but most of them I knew what to expect. And then in comes this Katrina Durden, who I didn't know anything about, and just knocks it out of the park. And I was just like, yeah, this is somebody to watch out for, definitely.
Yes, definitely. I completely agree. I think she's going to go far, And also, by the way, I think that about Phoebe too.
Oh yeah,
I think her attitude is incredible, and I think that she's got the sincerity and the integrity, like those parts where she's being quite not just sort of like, I mean, there's some happy-go-lucky stuff too, which I think works. Her and Sam together, I think, are great. But actually, there's a moment when things are going very wrong with Gold, and it looks like Gold is maybe going to finish Teague off, and she gets his attention. And I think she does an amazing job with kind of getting this killing machine, just saying his name. So
she has some fantastic dialogue in the round table near the start when they're sort of getting the mission, like the banter between her and is it Sam?
Sam Benjamin.
The two of them sort of like, you can tell that they are sort of the siblings of the group kind of thing, and, and they're just sort of bantering off each other. It's brilliant. I love it.
Please, thank you.
So obviously we don't know how the movie's tracking just yet. It's just come out, and hopefully it's doing really well, and it's going to keep doing well. But are you maybe possibly thinking, are we staring down the barrel of a third part of the franchise, or?
So currently there are 2 scripts for Vengeance.
2, nice.
There are very different. They could be 3 and 4 or something, or one of them could be Vengeance 3, and then you change some names, and because in the end, like the first 2 movies, the third movie is being written like you don't need to have seen. Yeah. It is more connected to the second movie overall. Like there's more DNA from the second movie in the third movie, if that makes sense. But again, it's sort of trying to write it like if you haven't seen them, then it all still makes sense. And there are a number of characters from part 2 in both scripts, but not the same characters. It's kind of interesting. Like both stories lended themselves to having different characters.
Cool.
So I'm kind of curious to see which way we end up. All being well, let's see how well we do. But I'm kind of curious to see which one does become the next one.
Yeah.
Kind of interested about that.
That's cool, man. So I'm gonna start wrapping up now, because we've taken up far too much of your time. You've been far too kind.
It's been a pleasure. I've just been worried I've been
like I say, like I always say to people that come on this show, it is a drink with your mates. This is what we're doing. We're talking about films. It just so happens you make the movies we're talking about. So it's why I love doing what I do. I don't go deep diving into people. It's just a case of tell me about your film.
Amazing.
And I've thoroughly enjoyed it myself. But other than a possible 3 or 4 of I Am Vengeance, is there anything else you're sort of working on? You can tell us about anything that you're doing through Evolutionary that you're going to be pushing.
Absolutely. So Evolutionary Films, we've released a number of movies. There's a great action movie that's already out called The Mercenary, which I hugely recommend. If you like Jesse Johnson's movies with Scott. If you like Jesse Johnson's movies, it's terrific. It's so full on, like crazy action and everything. Dominic Vandenberg is the star. He's great. Louis Mandylor's the lead villain.
Nice.
Very super enjoyable. It's called The Mercenary. We have another genre title coming out very soon. I think it's August 17th, called Tribal Get Out Alive, which stars Zara Piftian, Ross O'Hennessy, Rachel Warren, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, I've been speaking to Rachel about that one. Yeah, cool.
She's amazing. I felt like I just worked with Rachel. Finally, we've known each other for a long time on this short film I shot in January with Brian Larkin and Bo Fowler, Greg again, and Cheryl Burniston, who's terrific. I've worked with her a number of times, and it's this horror film called Life Force. But I'm sort of keeping it under wraps because it's still being edited, and it's definitely it's kind of out there. It's kind of strange. So I've got that short coming up, but it's going to be obviously probably end of the year. Yeah. In the meantime, at some point, Dead End 3, again with Brian Larkin. It's part of he's got a short film franchise called Dead End. If you haven't seen the first two,
I feel like I've heard this.
Oh, hugely recommend them. They're very, very well made.
I feel like I've heard of them, yeah.
They're very popular as well. And I've been really proud or delighted, I should say, that he asked me to direct the third one. We've worked together a number of times, and he's tremendous. Yeah. A real strong vision for like the world. It's a very espionage movie rather than like you call an action film. There's beats of action in it.
Yeah.
But for me as a director, it's great to sort of work with tension and that sort of thing. So great casting crew on that one. I think that's me. but also writing on a bunch of projects too. And there's a few other things potentially in the offing. I'm hoping to work with Rachel again soon. And she's pushing really hard as a producer now.
Yeah.
So that's terrific. And in the meantime, I guess we're always looking for completed films, ideally genre films or films in post. We're always looking for films that we can potentially assess as sales agents and UK distribution. So we're busy.
That's what I like to hear. And coming out of lockdown, as we seem to be slowly but surely right now, I'm sure there'll be 1,000,001 pandemic movies getting thrown at you. So there you go.
Yeah, I can say on that point, because I've seen a few on Facebook being made, which is great. Most buyers have already said, don't do a lockdown film.
Yeah.
Most buyers have said, don't do a lockdown film. We don't care.
Nobody wants it.
No. And I know a few friends, like I've got friends who are making them, and I hope they're good. Like they could be, if it's a good movie is a good movie. Yeah. Like we've had quarantine films before. There was Containment. There's loads of movies, right? Even Contagion, and look, 28 Days Later. Let's get in there.
God, yeah.
Plenty of. So they do exist. If you make a good one, I guess you make a good one. There was that one Right at Your Door some years ago. I don't know if you remember that. That was a great movie. It had quite a buzz around it. I want to say 10 years ago now. Anyway, but most buyers are saying don't do that.
And I wholeheartedly agree because I am watching them.
You know what I'd want to see? I'm not even kidding. And I know how this would sound because we would normally say don't make a comedy because comedy doesn't sell unless you've got stars. But you know what? A lockdown comedy might be more interesting. Try and do something with it rather than just be it's a lockdown movie.
Funnily enough, over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks with some of the people we've had on the show, that seems to be the general consensus: is give me a comedy.
Right. Well, I don't know about anyone else, right? Like, I'm a genre guy, etc. And I've been watching a bunch of those as normal. The stuff I've been mostly watching during lockdown has been comedy.
Yeah.
Whether it's TV shows, movies, older movies. I've still watched a bunch of other, but I've mostly focused, particularly if I'm working, I need something on all the time when I'm working. Yeah. Some people need dead silence. I need something on. I've been watching Red Dwarf and Blackadder and Black Books. Classic. And Spaced and everything. Like, and then Three Amigos, which I watched again and again. And I need stuff that makes me smile.
Yeah.
I just need it. I don't know how people are watching. Yeah, Contagion. Like, why are you watching that?
Yeah, I was the same. It came up as number 1 on Netflix, most watched, and I'm like, are you mental?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that in your house?
It's just like it's happening outside. Leave it alone.
Well, yeah, or even just movies where people are trapped in houses, like Night of the Living Dead. Why are you? What are you doing?
I caught, I think it was Apple TV put a show out just before all this kicked off. Mythic Quest, it was called.
Oh, it's amazing!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
But the lockdown episode at the end of the series, I was kind of like, nope, don't need this.
Have you watched it?
I have watched it. Yeah,
I love the bit at the end was absolutely mind blowing.
When he's at the door. Oh yeah.
That I cheered.
I was
I did.
The first time it came on, because I didn't realise that I was finished the series and that this special episode came on. So it came on, and I thought that's a weird way to like end a series, is like to go on from the next episode. And then I realised it was a lockdown episode. I was like, nah, not just now. And it was a couple of days later that I went and watched it. It's a fantastic series, though.
It is, isn't it brilliant? And also the emotional stuff that happened when he goes round to her place. Wasn't that amazing? I mean, like, I'm a big fan. I mean, I love Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I was always going to be a little bit grabbed in. I thought it was, and I will say the first episode I was a bit like, eh. But as it went on, within a couple, I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
I love it. And that whole bit where you don't know if F. Murray Abraham is going to come on the screen in time.
Yes.
You know, when it all that when he came on, I went, yes!
honestly,
Loved it.
Definitely the best thing I watched during lockdown was that show, and I think I clocked it in about 2 days. It was just like, yeah.
My girlfriend was staying with me, and we didn't kill each other, which was amazing. My girlfriend Jenny is a saint. She has the patience of a saint, and she's beautiful. Just in case she's going to listen. So, Jenny, you're beautiful. I love you. But it was one of those things that we did watch together, and it really did. I don't know, things like that. Sometimes it really gives me an extra. I don't know about you. It gives me like an extra bump, I guess, when we enjoy something together like that, particularly in that situation.
I'm going to wrap it up now, but I'm going to ask you to do me one more favour, because I'm terrible, as you will have realised from my opening statement. I'm terrible at this kind of thing. Let people know where they can find you, where they can find your work, and just what to look out for.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you. Well, if you want to watch I Am Vengeance Retaliation, it's on in the UK. It's on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and Microsoft at the moment. Cool. I believe there will be more platforms forthcoming. You can watch the first Vengeance movie, which is either called Vengeance or I Am Vengeance, depending where you're based. I think it's for free on Amazon Prime now. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of. I think that's just happened, so that's kind of fun. Should you wish to, it's a lot of fun if you like a revenge thriller. So in terms of social media, though, for myself, I'm on all the social things as at Ross Boyask. Evolutionary Films is at Evo Films UK. And to follow the antics of the Vengeance franchise, it's at Vengeance Film UK, again, on all the social things. And we'd love to hear from people. You know, please tweet and say hello. And, you know, we like the film. We're not so happy with the film. Please don't do that. But please, yeah, we do genuinely love hearing from people and connecting and so forth. It's always good to do that, particularly with, you know, any filmmakers out there and so forth, of course, you know, and genre fans and so forth. Awesome. It's lovely. There's a community, you know. For anyone who doesn't know, again, I do a podcast called Ross and Phil Talk Movies. Nice. And what it should be called is Ross and Phil Talk Shit About Movies. Yeah. So, because all it comes down to is we used to have these like 2-hour phone calls where we've just ranted about everything, and then we were like, well, let's just inflict that on everybody else. So if you like strong opinions about films, it's a laugh. And if anyone is interested, because, you know, a bit of cross-pollination, the best episode to listen to as a way in is we did an episode on Spectre. Nice. Which I loathe. I'm with I know some people like it. I mean, it made me furious in so many ways. And it's just a good I think with the Spectre episode, Phil and I kind of hit our stride on the podcast, if that makes sense. To the point where it's kind of getting annoying, but we mentioned Spectre. Ross, it's been absolutely brilliant speaking to you. Thank you for coming on. I genuinely really enjoyed I Am Vengeance 2 and the first one as well, and I hope people check out, and I hope it does well, and I want to see a 3, 4, a 5, a 6, and even a 10. We're going to skip to 10. Skip to 10 if you want. Put it in space. It probably has to be in space. Oh, right? Yeah, it's always got to be in space. John Gold in space would be brilliant. Definitely. I'd be up for that. Again, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. Oh, thank you. It's been wonderful talking to you. Thanks so much for having me. We'll get you back to your regularly scheduled podcast in just a minute. But we wanted to introduce ourselves. I'm Jason. I'm Jeff. And I'm Blake on this highly produced advertisement. That's right. It's the History of Bad Ideas, a.k.a. Hobie. You can find us on Twitter at Bad Ideas Podcast and on Facebook at the History of Bad Ideas. But if you like a podcast roundtable with 3 to 5 guests, usually every week, depending on sick leave, talking about all things geek, including movies, TV. I ain't getting paid for this shit. Blake bitching about something and ranting, and comic books and anything else that we can think of. We have a top 5 list every week, along with a box office news, and somehow we have listeners, so they send us some feedback we answer every week. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, Spotify, and any good podcast app, because if you can't find us on that podcast app, it's not a good podcast app. Damn straight.
Roger says goodbye. Goodbye.
So that was Ross. Ross, thank you so much for coming on again. You were absolutely fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed that episode. It kind of went a little bit off the rails at times, which is pretty much every episode that I do by myself. Chris is obviously like the anchor of the show and just keeps things going the way they're supposed to. He's like, no, this is the track. Stay on the track. We are on the track. And I'm just like, nah. Fuck the track. So yeah, please do check out I Am Vengeance 2 in all those amazing places that you can check it out. You can check the first one out if you haven't seen it. You don't necessarily have to have seen it, but you can also check it out on Amazon Prime too. Now there's some interesting things going on. Richard Oakes and Adam Leader, I think we've already spoken about this. Hosts is doing, they've found a distributor. It's going to Dark Sky Films. It's getting out there. It's going to be coming to your TVs, cinemas, screens shortly. Can't wait for that. Tom, as I mentioned up at the start of the show, is going over to America, to San Diego Comic-Con, to have a panel and whatnot to talk about G-Lock, Casper Van Dien movie. We already have interviews recorded from months ago when I visited the set. They will be getting released around about the time. I believe it's like middle of August that movie's dropping, which is insane because he only just finished it like 10 minutes ago. But yeah, that is coming out. 400 Bullets is apparently in the grading process. It's apparently it's looking awesome. We can't wait to see what he's done there. That's just going to be amazing. John Paul Lee, Andrew Lee Potts, cannot wait to see that movie as well. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going around. Arthur and Merlin for Giles's movie. Please do check that out. We've got some more fantastic interviews lined up. I can't believe how good these interviews are going. People are just really enjoying coming on, and we're getting better and better and better with it. And the guests are just a cut above. And it's amazing to see what these independent guys or these lower budget guys are doing. It's just on the money that some of them have for what they pull out the bag, it's incredible. It's a good time to be British indie filmmaking. It really is. There's some great stuff happening, and I'm loving seeing it, and the more we can talk about it, the more we will. So please do stick around. I have an episode I'm dying to tell you about. In fact, there's one or two cheeky little hints in this episode, but that's not going to help because we talk about a lot of different people. But yeah, the name of a guest that's coming up is dropped somewhere in this interview. So I don't know. Go back and have a little listen, see who you think would be cool, and I don't know, drop me a message and see if you get it right. I'm going to go because I'm just babbling. Ross, thank you so much for coming on. We will definitely be tracking you. We will definitely be keeping an eye on what you do. Listen to his podcast as well. I have already subscribed, and I'm going to be listening to the Spectre episode. Awesome. I'm going to leave now. We'll be back very soon. Chris will be back for a regular schmegular soon.